If your Shopify store is making up of $100K per month in revenue, here's the exact strategy that you can use to double it in the next 3 months. So this is going to be your end goal, and this is going to be linked in the video description as well, but this is the funnel that you need to build out if you really want to double or even triple your Shopify revenue and profitably scale from where you're at right now. So the funnel is pretty simple. You pretty much have your store and the traffic, and which means that everyone that comes to your store. Then you have your pop-up, and this is where the magic begins, because after you have this pop-up, you're gonna have your email list, which is your most valuable asset, going pretty much into 2025 and beyond. Because then after you have it, you can set up all of these flows, right, which you can see over there, and then you can also be, you don't even can, but you should be sending those campaigns at least once per week. Okay, this is going to be the strategy that you need to follow, and now I'm going to break it down into monthly action steps so that you know what to follow, how to implement it, because I know that this graph might look quite tough to read, or maybe it looks complicated, but I'm here to break it down for you into, once again, actionable steps that you can implement every single month. So let's get right into the breakdown. Once again, what I showed you is just your end goal. This is something you should be aiming towards, but you are not going to build all of that overnight unless you have huge team, right? But yeah, this is going to be month number 1 for you. So the first step to having this funnel and setting it up is doing the setup itself, right? Sounds pretty self-explanatory, but that's the truth. First thing that you need to do is set up Klaviyo, which is right now the best sending tool for any e-commerce brand. This is the best tool out there for email marketing for e-com brands, so make sure that you're using it. And then you also need to set up your sending infrastructure. So in terms of the Klaviyo setup, the main thing that you need to look out for is making sure that all your events are being tracked properly. If that's not the case, you'll be missing out on dozens of, or maybe even hundreds of thousands in the revenue, mainly because having all of the events tracked is super important. You want to be tracking everything that people are doing in your store. Otherwise, you won't be able to send, these abandonment flows, which are making so much revenue. Then for the sending infrastructure, what you need to do is set up a custom sending domain, or people also refer to it as a branded sending domain. If you don't know how to do it, I have another video explaining how to do it super quickly. And then you also need to have your DNS record set up. By doing so, we'll have proper sending infrastructure, and don't be discouraged if it takes you time, because it's gonna be worth it. It might take you longer than anyone else. It's okay, because you need to do it only once, and after you do it once, you're gonna be all set. So make sure you do it properly, and then once again, you won't need to worry about it. It's very important to have this setup long term. Then after you have it, which is Klaviyo setup and the infrastructure done, you need to do the research. But if you're running an e-com brand doing more than 100K per month, I'm assuming that you already have it done. So if you do have it done, then that's great. If you don't have it yet, make sure you spend some time and do it, especially that it should be something that you are doing continuously and improving over time. After you have all of that, you move into creating the pop-up, which is going to be the foundation of everything else that happens after that. Okay, that's why you need to have separate pop-ups. One is going to be for mobile, where you set the time delay to page load or seconds spent on website, and the second pop-up will be on desktop, where the trigger is usually exit intent only. That's to make sure that you're not missing out on any potential profit margin. You don't want to be targeting people right away while they're still shopping. Okay, and on mobile we can't track thumbs, like it's impossible to trigger exit intent or to have the exit intent trigger. That's why we're doing it only for desktop. Then some tips for having a good pop-up is making sure your copy is clear and concise, you're promoting an offer, and making sure that your SMS step is optional. You don't want people to force them to opt in. It has to be optional, otherwise your submission rate will go down significantly. After you have the pop-up, this is where the flows come in. Flows are like automated email sequences where you pretty much have, anytime someone triggers an event, then you're sending a series of emails to this person, which, this series of emails is prepared by you in advance, so you can easily plan the whole journey. That's why I said that event tracking is so important, because if you have all of that in place and you're tracking the events properly, you can be sending those exact flows to the people that should be getting them, right? So after you have the welcome flow, which is the key flow after anyone joins your email list, where usually in this flow you want to exclude people who are joining through the checkout. Then you also have abandoned cart flow, abandoned checkout flow. Important thing to note here is that these two flows are separate flows. A lot of people say they have abandoned cart flow, but in reality they have abandoned checkout flow. So make sure that you have both of these, especially with the latest Klaviyo update, where they actually released added to cart metric, which is even more accurate than the previous one that you had to set up manually. And then the last flow for this month is going to be browse abandonment. Once again, another very high intent flow for anyone who has been on your product page but didn't add your product to cart. Then you want to cover campaigns, and if you have a list which is a new list, if you're starting from scratch, I would make sure that I'm sending at least one to two campaigns per week, making sure that you're expanding the segments and warming up the domain properly, because this is going to be very, very important in the long term. If you don't warm up your domain the right way, then you're gonna go into spam and pretty much nobody is going to see your emails. This was the plan for month number 1. Now we're gonna go into month number 2. So after you have all of that, you pretty much need to set up the remaining flows. So in the first month, you've started by setting up the most important flows, but then you want to make sure that you have all of the other flows and you're pretty much all set with all of these, right? So the next flows will be site abandonment, window shoppers, which is triggered off a custom segment that we usually set up. These are very, very high intent buyers, potential buyers, which are not in any of the flows, which is they are not in the abandoned cart, checkout, browse abandonment, or even welcome flow. So people who've gone through these flows but still didn't purchase, this is where the window shopper flows comes in, and it's very, very helpful in converting those cold traffic people into buyers. Then you have post-purchase flow, which usually includes upsell or cross-sell of some sort. You don't want this entire flow to be about upsell or cross-sell, but you want to have like 1 or maximum 2 emails that are cross-selling something, preferably complementary products to the ones that someone bought initially. Then you're gonna have replenishment flow, and it's gonna be only for the brands where you can actually apply it. Not all of the products are being replenished. Like usually, electronic devices can't be replenished really. You can't run out of the TV. Technically you can, but you know what I mean. Whereas opposed to the supplement, for example, someone has a 30-day supply. So by the day 20 or 25, you want to email them saying like, hey, you're gonna run out of this stuff. Make sure you subscribe to our supplements and save simultaneously, and you don't need to remember about having them ordering them to get them in time. Then you have customer win back flow. So this is for existing customers who are about to churn, and usually you won't have this flow set up just to increase your LTV, right, and improve your cash flow in the short term. And then first purchase anniversary, it has the same goal as customer win back flow, to be honest, which is increasing your LTV and boosting cash flow, but the time frame is a little bit longer on this one because it's gonna be 1 year after the initial purchase. But this angle works great. People love gifting angles, receiving gifts and celebrating, so make sure that you do it. And the last flow, but not the least one, is sunset engaged flow, which is purely for the maintenance of your email list. You want to be removing unengaged people from your email list to make sure that you're not overspending and not overpaying for your Klaviyo account. This is very, very important because we've came into the Klaviyo account with a few brands. We've done this. We've cleaned their email list from the sunset engaged flow, but also bounced profiles. And sometimes we would save them like up to even 1K or 1.5K per month in their Klaviyo bill, which is huge savings. So make sure that you do it and clean your email list. After you have all of those flows in place, you want to increase your campaign sending frequency to 3 to 4 campaigns per week and target the following segments. So your regular engaged segment, then buyers, non-buyers, potential purchasers, and buyers reactivation. These are really the main segments that you need. Of course, you can go deeper down the segmentation hole, but it's probably not gonna take you anywhere. Usually, unless you're doing huge numbers like hundreds of millions per month, then it probably makes sense to do micro segmenting. But even then, like your still primary segment that you send campaigns to is gonna be the engaged segment, mainly because it's gonna make sure that you have very good deliverability when sending to those segments. You're gonna have great engagement on those, and these are still probably people that are most interested in buying from you because you're familiar. They're familiar with your brand. You're relevant to them because you've been targeting them, for quite a while. And most importantly, they are doing something within those emails, which is either opening them or clicking them or just simply buying from you. During this month, we really want to focus on, increasing your engaged segments and then expanding onto the other ones. So what I mean by expanding your or increasing your engaged segments is that if in the first month you've been targeting, engaged 30-day segment, you want to go ahead and expand it to engaged 60-day segment. If your open rates are fine, you want to expand it even further to engaged 90 segments, and so on and so on. You want to be expanding those segments until you hit at least like engaged 180 or maybe even 365 days segment. We've done this for multiple brands, and it's super powerful, both short term and long term, because what you're doing on the front end is re-engaging, those people who, for example, bought from you like maybe 10 months ago, but they are not falling under your email engaged segment. Okay, so if you target them within this broad segment, what happens on the back end is people who were in your engaged 365 segment, because for example they bought from you 10 months ago and they open an email from you, they're gonna fall into your engaged 30 segment, which is your most engaged segment, right? That's why it's so important to keep expanding your segments, because then what happens is that your most engaged segment, which is engaged 30, keeps growing and growing, and then pretty much you're targeting your most engaged segment, but the net recipients and net opens and net clicks are way higher than they were, for example, a month ago. We had one brand where we pretty much took over and we took their engaged segment from 3,000 people to 25,000 people in just a span of 1.5 months, which is huge, because right now we're sending campaigns to this engaged 30 segment, but we're still getting a lot of opens and clicks and purchases as a result, just because we've expanded it so far. Then you want to keep targeting buyers and non-buyers. And usually I would start with, going even as far as trying to target all of the buyers at once, right? Just because these people most likely opened an email from you, whether it was transactional or maybe a sales email. But then the other reason why you want to do it is because they are familiar with your brand, right? But then for non-buyers, obviously the goal is to target all of them at once as well, but you need to be a little bit slower in this case. So for example, what we like to do is take sample segments from the list. Let's say you have 100k non-buyers on your email list. You don't want to blast an email to all of them at once, because that's gonna hurt your deliverability. What you want to do is create a 10% sample size of this audience, which is 10k people, and then target those 10k people at once. Okay, within the next campaign you can do 15% and target 15k people while excluding these previous 10k, and so on and so on, and you keep doing it until you hit everyone on your list. Now we are going into the month number 3, where it's mainly time for optimization and fine-tuning your strategy. The first step to doing so is analyzing your initial data. So what's your pop-up submission rate? What are the metrics for your flows and campaigns? And by metrics, I mean open rates, click rates, conversion rates, revenue per recipient, and for campaigns recipients themselves, right? Then based on this data, you want to launch A/B tests, okay? So mainly you're gonna be launching A/B tests for flows and sign-up forms, because they're pretty much like ongoing. You set the tests once and then they keep running for a few weeks or maybe even months if your volume is super low. For sign-up form, you want to keep testing until you hit at least like 5 to 6% submission rate. Actually, last month we've done like 3 tests for a bunch of our clients, and we took like 4 or 5 brands from 2 or 3% submission rate to 10% submission rate, which is insane. But that's why you want to keep testing, because you can get to these higher submission rate numbers without dropping the quality of the subscribers if you keep testing. Same goes for the flows. You need to be constantly improving them and making your entire email flow better. Then you also want to keep testing campaigns in terms of the angles, and then once you find winners, you want to find them to your evergreen portfolio of high-performing campaigns, which then you can recreate every single month, and then you know that, okay, this angle performs well, let me just try and like spin it off and create something similar, because I know it's gonna perform well. And then last but not least, you need to monitor your deliverability using Klaviyo Analytics, Google Post Mastery Tools, Glockups, which is a third-party tool, and then Gmass, which is another third-party tool. I wouldn't rely only on one of them, because the data is just so reliable in itself. You can have different picture in Klaviyo Analytics, but then Google Post Master can be showing you entirely different thing, especially that Klaviyo doesn't display, for example, spam rates for Gmail inboxes. So you might be seeing 0% spam rate for your Gmail inbox in Klaviyo, but Google Post Mastery Tools is gonna show you like 3% spam rate, which is insane. That's why you need to be monitoring all of them, especially if you wanna have like really good deliverability. I would also make sure that I'm using both of these third-party tools just to test your inbox placement and where your emails are landing. You don't need to do it daily, but like once per month or maybe once per quarter, if your metrics are fine, that's gonna be more than enough. Now, this was the plan for the entire 3 months period, because I know that if you run an e-com brand yourself, there's a lot of other things you need to do, which is managing ads, creating creatives, managing customers, probably the communication with them, unless you have someone doing it for you, probably, strategizing about UGC, maybe doing SEO. I know all of this stuff takes a lot of time. That's why I've broken it down into 3 months, because I know that this is going to be possible for you to execute on. But then if you want to do it faster and, just fast track the results, doing it is quite simple. Just do everything faster. It will take you probably dozens of hours, but that's the truth, right? To implement all of that, dozens of hours is still like a very optimistic expectation, because very optimistic expectation, because you have so many emails to create, so many A/B tests to launch. But yeah, this is possible, and it's gonna be 100% worth it. So you can do it yourself, and it's gonna take you some time to figure it all out for sure. You have also like a bunch of tutorials on my channel which you can watch, which are for sure gonna help you with this. But alternatively, if you wanna proven results, and if you want them fast, you can partner up with me and my team of 8-figure marketers. We'll handle everything for you, and your only job will be to approve the emails that we send you. Okay, so we're gonna be getting emails from us, and you're gonna say good to go, or here's my feedback, implement it please, and then good to go, right? Like, that's the only thing you need to do. You don't need to set up all of these flows, come up with the campaign ideas, come up with the flow angles. All of this stuff, we're gonna do it for you, completely done for you, like 100%. If you wanna see if we're a good fit for each other, that's fine. You can just click the link below this video and schedule a free call. We're gonna have a brief chat about you, about your brand, and we're gonna see if we're able to help you out. Make sure you click it, but if you're not there yet, make sure to join my newsletter, where I'm sharing free tips on email marketing and e-commerce sales. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.